took us a long time in California to figure out why nobody was developing zero waste plans for communities. And all of a sudden we asked each other, oh, did you ask anyone? Did you ask anyone? Nobody had asked anyone to adopt a plan. So just ask a couple of friends to sign on and participate and ask them to adopt zero waste, the ZWIA definition, and to direct staff to return with a plan within 6 months to a year, and include zero waste as a goal in sustainability or climate change plans. First is to adopt this ZWIA zero waste definition. Second is to establish benchmarks and a timeline to meet the goals. The Urban Environmental Accords called for zero waste by 2040. That put it out far enough so that even people who weren't sure that it was real but wanted to go down that path could do so, like in Austin. And that's how they ended up with zero waste by 2040 in Austin, because it was in the Urban Environmental Accords. Engaging the whole community. Paul said it earlier, don't leave zero waste to waste experts. That's written in the global principles. That's our policy as WIA. Guess what? The waste experts got us to where we are. You don't want to rely on them to get us out of that mess. The answers are from all of you and all the community, and we see time and time again that the more you get the whole community involved, the leveraging of local resources is just amazing, and that's the key message there. Managing resources, not waste. Existing incinerators must be closed down and no new ones built. Reform landfill practices to prevent all pollution of air and water, including pre-processing of all residues at landfills before burial, to stabilize the organics and prevent methane. That's basically like the EU landfill directive since 1999. That's been policy in Europe. Program funding. Key funding source is what you're paying now. For a zero waste world, you just pay for different things in different places. The avoided collection and disposal costs for any business is clearly one of the biggest drivers that you can identify. The biggest driver for business is actually the total avoided cost by designing waste out of the system. Businesses save the most money by designing waste out. They save the next most money by reuse systems like refillable shipping containers and returnable pallets. You can adopt use fees based on tons hauled and tons landfilled to fund the program, to provide startup funds for EPR programs, to develop policies, programs, and facilities, and it changes the economics overnight, which is what we see happening in Europe. And new rules stimulate private investment. The C&D rule was a great example in Austin. We found that Austin did not have a citywide C&D recycling ordinance like is common in California. And although they had a sterling award-winning green building program, it was only required for a tiny little sliver of the downtown area. As a result, the private sector couldn't respond to that minimal demand for their services, so they didn't invest in the facilities. Once the cities adopt the policies, the private sector can go to the bank based on that rule and get things built with private capital without the public having to put money into it. So the new rules stimulate private investment. Education and outreach. It's a behavior change. We've heard this time and time again. Got to educate residents, businesses, and visitors about the new rules and programs. And it's a strategy, not a technology. I got a couple of slides here from Alameda County just to highlight this. They've got some of the best funded programs and most creative outreach in the state. They had money to spend on that, and that's what you need to do. For zero waste assessments, identifying the source, amount, type, and value of discarded materials, I try and stress the highest volume materials, the highest value materials, and the most toxic materials are what you're looking for when you're looking at your data. Just take pictures of what you've got, or get data from comparable communities. It doesn't vary that much, and all you need is enough data to make some program decisions. One of the things we developed, Rick and I, was this form. Where would you take this card? It really simplified the way of approaching how do we figure out where all the different 12 market categories of materials are by some of the subcategories, and by reviewing basic documents from a community, looking at their website, looking at their ordinances and their contracts. Rick typically has done this on our zero waste community plans, and he'll be able to spend about a day looking at all the documents, fill this out, send it to staff. Staff changes a couple of things, then we send it out for public review, and basically in a day or two got the work done that on the Palo Alto plan took a couple months. Knowing the value is really important. When we can say in Los Angeles that $100 million a year is being thrown away, and that 40 million of that 100 million is coming from 2% of the waste stream, it really resonates. That the 2% of reusables that are worth $40 million highlights why we need to focus on reuse and reduce. It underscores the point that we're throwing away our jobs and we're throwing away the value. So it's not just about tons, it's about value of materials. And knowing the value of the materials in just the simple 12 market categories that D&M developed back in the 1980s is really key to helping people see everything in terms of what the commodity is worth. Residual separation and research facility, we just heard Paul on that. New rules and incentives, Rick spoke about this. It basically says that communities can significantly change what's economic in the local marketplace with new policy, new rules, and new incentives. In California, we have strong authority from the state government that local governments can do a whole bunch of things to change the local economics. That's not the case in Texas or Colorado, so it varies dramatically around the country. But you can always have an influence in the marketplace by a variety of policies that people have figured out. If any one community adopted all the successful policies, programs, and facilities, they'd be at zero waste or darn close really quickly. Hawaii, the new rules and incentives that were adopted in the Big Island's zero waste plan that Rick Anthony led are here. And so ones that he mentioned earlier, producer and retailer responsibility, require source separation, compostable organics out of landfill, and C&D, reuse and recycling plans and permits. Okay, number 10, extended producer responsibility. We've heard a bunch about that. Ending subsidies for wasting. $2.6 billion a year we subsidize with federal tax subsidies, mining, manufacturing, and mining and timber harvesting and things of that nature. And that doesn't even count the amount of subsidies from our waste policies that under-regulate, inadequately address leachate and methane generation and long-term care for landfills. Zero waste procurement, buying the future that you want. Zero waste infrastructure, like Ruth talked about, developing locations, including resource recovery parks, like the one here that was designed by Mark Gorell in the Zero Waste Center for the United Kingdom in the Waveney sector. Zero waste businesses. One of the key things I always like to say is that businesses are leading the way to zero waste. There are thousands of businesses out there that have already diverted 90% of their materials from incineration and landfills. And when you say that to people and you give them the list of other presentations that you'll hear shortly, it really changes their thinking. So the fact that businesses are leading the way is a really important message. So what you want to do is find them in your local community. Everywhere we've been, we found a zero waste business. They just didn't know they were a zero waste business. We identified them in the course of the planning, and that's a key thing. You want to promote the hell out of them once you find them. Reduce first, design out waste. A typical plan scope is looking at the information you've got, figuring out the public participation strategy, how to get the public involved, looking at the gaps in what services are missing, which we now call opportunities, the service opportunities analysis. Then looking at the policies, programs, and facilities that aren't in place, that have been adopted elsewhere, bringing them to that community. Once you figure out which of those you want to go with, you look at the economics and the impacts, and that comes together as the plan. Key lessons, someone's got to ask, connect to other problems, educate and build support, and identify and promote local zero waste businesses. In the PowerPoint that will be posted on the website, here's a sample resolution where you go back and ask your community to adopt the zero waste goal and return with the zero waste plan. And guess what my last slide is? Zero!